Well, welcome all. It's great to see all of you on here. If you're not driving and you wouldn't mind turning your camera on, we'd love to see you as we join in this PLC today, our December version of our redesigned PLC. Welcome. Today, we're really excited to talk about engaging relationships within your community. Something that I know that all of you put a lot of time and effort into thinking through as you redesigned and continue to try to strengthen that. So in that, to kind of get us warmed up to that topic, what I'd like you to do is in the chat, if you would, list, as you were growing up, what was your favorite community-wide event to attend in your hometown, or if you moved around the town you were living in, but what was your favorite community-wide event that you attended when you were just a youngster? For me, that Rolodex goes way back, right? All the way back. Pretty too far back. All right, we've got some flowing in already. This is great. I love the names. I just love the names. The Smoky Hill River Festival, the Old Settlers Day Parade. Oh, Sarah, the school skate party, Skate World.
Oh, wow, yeah. The skating rink in Independence.
Ohio Days in Waverly. Jared, I'm gonna have to hit that up. All right, Leroy, the Christmas light display, excellent. 4th of July festivals. Makes me think, Heidi, it makes me think of that warm weather that we got so spoiled with. You know, how dare it be cold in December? All Schools Day Parade in McPherson. I think I've heard about that, Dina. That sounds really fun. Hayden, the Roots Festival in Paola. I just keep them coming. You know, I just think it's nice to think about some of those experiences when we were growing up and kind of reflect on that. Now, while the purpose may be different, the peace treaty in Medicine Lodge, I need to jump in on that. These are great. So, but as you think about them, the purpose may be different, right? The Hillsborough Arts and Crafts Fair may have a different purpose for engaging the community around certain things than you would be engaging your community in schools. Maybe it's to set up a work-based learning experience, right? Or civic engagement in your community. The purposes may be different, but the level of engagement is not. And so just to kind of start us off today with a frame of reference as we dive into that topic today of this is a community event that you really favored and you really liked. How do you mimic the level of engagement that you saw in these community events and do that in your school district? So with that, I think I'll introduce our team. We'll go to the next slide. So we've got Dr. Tammy Mitchell, we've got myself, Jay Scott, and we've got Sarah Perryman joining us. I like my pictures fuzzy to kind of get away with some of the stuff that's on my face. So it's much nicer to have those clear pictures of Tammy and Sarah. But this is our redesign team, and we're happy that you're here with us today.
And so for those of you joining, I'm going to get that link in the chat one more time. And we just really enjoy these opportunities to connect and network and then learn from our peers. And we hope that you're able to get that out of these as well. So we always want to have a clear focus, provide you some strategies, ideas, things that you can take back and start to implement or try in your school with a clear way of how you'll know that it's successful. So thinking about how you'll measure the effectiveness of your work and how you'll stay accountable to trying those new things that you are learning through these networking opportunities with your peers. And so with that, we want to kick off our first Menti. So as you saw on that last slide, each month we want you to be thinking about what's something you can try with that topic, with that theme, and how you'll know that it worked. And so if you would go to menti.com and enter that code at 69520227, lots of twos in there. Maybe Tammy or Jay could get that code in the chat for us, but we'll just do our accountability question. We've tried to do this the last couple of months. Is just to say, hey, since last time we met, what have you done to really intentionally affect that theme that we are discussing? And so for today's question in November, we talked about engaging staff. And so your question, just to kick off, thanks Jay, just to kick off today's meeting with that accountability piece is, what have you done since our last meeting to engage and build relationships with staff? So we'll keep that open and see what you all have done to engage, build relationships with staff. That code is in the chat. It's also at the top of the screen, 6952-0227. Great, thanks for getting these in. Cards of affirmation, surveys of appreciation, implemented a weekly check-in celebrating the 10 days of Christmas, staff survey, how they want to be appreciated, staff Christmas party, celebrations for the 12 days of Christmas, staff meals. Awesome. Homemade bread and butter. I love that. I think Leroy said at one of our last meetings that his motto is, if we're meeting, we're eating. And I really felt that in my soul. And so I really, really appreciate Timmerman's bread and butter. That's a good one. Good, giving teachers a break. Awesome, just seeing people you don't always get to see. Door contest, 12 days of goodies. I love how we're building off of themes. Just a plug, if you don't watch our monthly Redesign Hot Topics, we try to keep those fresh and interesting, and we too celebrated the 12 days of redesign this month. So if you don't join those KSDE Hot Topics, you might want to add that to your monthly viewing list.
And I'll just plug, because Sarah came up with the idea for the 12 days of Christmas, the Hot Topics. And then we have some people in our agency who can really sing. And Tammy Mitchell and our Pat Bone, our assistant, they went through the 12 days of Christmas. And if you haven't heard it yet, they're about to be picked up by a recording label and sent out there. So you better check out the Hot Topics. There might be something in it for you too. Wink, wink.
Yeah, I've got free t-shirts. So if you listen to it, email me and I'll send you a purple and white K-State t-shirt. That's absolutely free. And I've got a stack of them. I need to send those out to people who will wear them. So let us know.
Yes, I love when we can plug some of those other things. So thanks for that opportunity, guys. So we're going to go back to our PowerPoint, and I'm going to turn it over to Tammy. And thank you, if I didn't say, for sharing the work that you have done to engage staff and build those relationships.
Thanks, Sarah. So our theme is engaging relationships, building and engaging relationships within your community. And I think we have one more quick Menti question before we turn it over to our friends at Clay County. So you would go back to Menti and go to that next slide. This is the Redesign Success rubric on family, business, and community partnerships. And the instructions are to just put a pin where you think your school currently is designing, implementing, modeling, or mentoring in this particular area. It's not a gotcha, it's just take a quick look, kind of refresh your brain and put your pin in and submit. we'll wait and see until we get just a few more responses. Just put that pin in menti.com, and there's the code where you think your school currently is on the success rubric in this particular area. And really, wherever you are, that's where you are, right? Don't be, there's no shame in this. It's just where you are is where you are. And this provides you some ideas or thoughts on how you might make incremental steps to moving a little bit more towards the right on this rubric. We will keep that open. If you haven't put your pin in yet, please continue to do so. But I think we're ready to move on to our next thing.
So from Clay County today, we have Clay Center Community High School. We're so excited to have them present to us today about how they have strategically and intentionally engaged their community. I'll let them introduce themselves, but I believe we have, I'm going to forget one, but Dawn and Nicole and who am I missing? I wrote it on my sticky note. Jenny, there we go. So we're excited to have you guys present. Their link is here on slide 7, so feel free to open that and follow along, but I will stop sharing and let them introduce themselves and then share their screen.
Oh. Muting, unmuting, it's a lot. I'm Jenny Davidson. I'm the CCCHS librarian, and I also run our virtual and online program for the high school and for our district.
I'm Dawn Murphy, and I'm an ELA teacher here in the building and one of the redesign co-pilots. And then we have our other co-pilot, Nicole, here, and one of our other team members, Celeste Hamill, with us today.
Yeah. All right, getting into the nitty-gritty. Okay. It's going great. All right. Okay. So here you can see that we have Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, and that's actually one of the things we do to engage with our community. And I've got both the principal and the AD using Buffer, which is just a program where you can put something in once and it will send it out to all 3 of those. And it saves a lot of time, and I think we probably post more because it's simple. And it's also an app on our phones. That's just a side note, I suppose.
I think it's a good note.
Yeah. Yeah. I tend to do more of the social media stuff for the redesign team. We kind of all have our specialties, I guess you could say.
We thought we would just go ahead and put our why up here. It was very important to us, and you'll hear this referred to later in the presentation, that we leave the word all in empowering all students to thrive now and in the future. In our why, we are a Gemini 2 building as well, so that's probably something to note.
Yeah, this is our 4th year actually as a redesign school. So I feel like we would really be up and running and everything would be really smooth if we hadn't had a worldwide pandemic. But we definitely have made a lot of progress over time. So this is our big sign that we got when we actually launched. And this is just so you can see kind of where we are. We go between 3A and 4A depending on what's going on. And whether Wakefield, the other school in our community, sometimes sends kids up for softball and baseball and sports they don't have, and that'll bump us up to 4A sometimes. We have mostly an agricultural and manufacturing base. We also are within commuting distance to Fort Riley, and we have a number of families that are retired military or active military. All right, so one thing to make sure everybody knows is a lot of the things we'll talk about today we were doing before before we started redesign, but we were not doing them in a systemic way. So we were only doing internships for ag students. And that was pretty robust. We had college fairs. We did the Rotary Club career day every other year, but we didn't do things as intentionally or as with enough organization. And we definitely did it with a lot less input from our community than we have now.
Yeah, so a couple of things kind of came together for us at the same time. We voted to join the redesign process. We didn't even realize it at the time, but our local economic development group had sent out a survey to local businesses, and they were indicating that they really wanted employees who were both creative and very self-aware. And if we had to pick two topics that we wanted our students to work on, I don't think those would have been the top ones. I think we would have thought you have to show up on time and some of those more practical things. And we know those are important, but we actually ended up kind of incorporating that self-awareness piece and that creativity piece really, I don't know, dovetailed well with the redesign process as we started working through our investigative teams and coming up with our goal areas.
So some of the things that we've added, we switched our we have two counselors, one of whom was previously half-time counselor and half-time virtual and online program, and they switched that to half counselor and half-time community connections coordinator, which is a mouthful. So she works on increased internship opportunities, and now there are a lot more CTE opportunities for internships. Students have to have taken a course in a related area or sometimes be taking a course in a related area. So sometimes I'll have a student taking food safety and sanitation because they have an internship at Wendy's or some other food service type opportunity. We've really bumped up project-based learning. These are each supposed to be a different slide. All right, we've bumped up project-based learning, student-led businesses, and we also have a Tiger Showcase that we're making an annual thing.
Yeah, so Jenny kind of talked about what our 0.5 community coordinator does, and obviously is part-time counselor as well. Obviously, with any program that you implement, there's going to be data collection, there's going to be paperwork. We all know about dealing with auditors. So Sally Lee has this position and does a nice job with all of that. She helps coordinate with one of our other staff members, community internships and job shadows. Maybe one of the most underrated things she does, but it's extremely valuable networking wise, is that she's a community liaison for various boards in our community. And that's one of the things we would recommend. You know, if you could even just get somebody some time at lunchtime to go sit with the Rotary or the EDG group or whenever they meet and kind of start some of those liaison situations, we would highly recommend that is maybe a starting point.
Last week, the chamber had their monthly coffee here in the library, and it happened to be a day where our building leadership team or our district leadership team was meeting, and we actually came and got to sit down with them and chat with them and have that kind of informal networking and communication. And that was really valuable. And we actually had some students come in also and meet with them a little bit. They toured the school. That's really important because oftentimes once your kids are out of school, except for maybe sports, which is still a big thing in a small town, many people do come to our sporting events, but they don't always see other things that are going on. So 2019 to 2020, we had so that was our first year of redesign. No, our second year of redesign, where we really started to implement. We really started to have more internship opportunities. You can see in last year's numbers, it went down a little bit. Some opportunities just weren't available because of the pandemic. And this year it's bumped up a little bit. Our locker plant burned down, and we actually had, I think, 5 or 6 students last year who did an internship there. And so that wasn't available this year, but that's kind of a continual thing where you're working on things. We have a house flipping job shadow, which is very cool, and a next semester we'll have a hospital radiology department, but job shadowing as well. And that, whether it's a job shadow or an internship, depends on what they're able to do and how often, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, so what you're seeing now is just kind of some ways that we keep score in a visible fashion within the building. On the right of your screen, we have a rolling whiteboard that we purchased once we started doing redesign, and we're looking at data. And so that is in our commons area, which is a very well-traveled area in our building. And so like right now we're keeping track of attendance and things on there, but these are some past scoreboards that we've had on there. On the left, you'll see, and this was one of our PBL ways that we tracked our PBL, and we tried to kind of give you an inset picture there as well. But basically we set out a calendar of our school year, and then each person filled out the PBL or personalized learning unit that they were doing and plotted it within that calendar. It did a couple of things, and they're color coded by class, 9 through 12. We could see if maybe we were doubling up too much with a certain class and they had too much going on at a certain time. If we had some gap areas, then we could see too that everybody was implementing something. And that is the hallway where the vast majority of our people enter for any type of an athletic competition. So it just created some really good conversations when people would walk through there and ask, hey, what's going on here? And we could talk to them about PBL.
And one thing that was really good about this was it allowed people who were already doing PBL but didn't necessarily think of it that way to put theirs up and show everybody, hey, our fall musical is completely student directed, and they're creating all the props and coming up with all the ideas and everything. And that sometimes it's a matter of you're doing it, but you don't know you're doing it, or you haven't put that term to it, or even just the community doesn't know about it. All right, so we started in 2018 and 2019 with a couple prototypes on project-based learning, and that's been project-based learning we would consider to be under the umbrella of personalized learning. We have a zoo in Clay Center, which is unusual for a town our size. And they have been expanding and upgrading and doing a lot of things to improve. And it's something that Clay Center is very proud of and definitely wants to continue. Brad Connor, who is our woods and CAD teacher, would that encompass his? Yeah. His students actually designed buildings for the zoo and worked with a local architect and the public utilities people who run the zoo, and did those parts that are hard to get in the classroom, where you're getting feedback from local community members and vested stakeholders, and having to go back and change it and look into ADA rules and that kind of thing. And that was really valuable for them. We'll show a quick little video in a second from our functional special ed students went to our theater. We have a movie theater, and they learned some things ahead of time about how to act and what to do. We actually had some other high school students who worked there, and they went to that classroom and worked with the students and shared the experience there, both from being a patron and also being an employee at the theater and how that works. And then they got to take a field trip and go see a movie, but also get a tour and learn about working there and that kind of thing. And also, like, they bought things at the concession stand with money that they had earned. So that was really special. Last year, 2 years ago, we started with PBL training that summer. We sent a number of staff to a 2 or 3 day training for Bucks Institute PBL. Our principal keeps saying when we discuss this, it doesn't have to be Bucks Institute. And we all say, yes, it does. It does have to be Bucks Institute. So we really like that. But we said that every staff member has to do one PBL or personalized learning unit. And also we got a new audiovisual teacher and business teacher, and she is a go-getter. And so she created an assignment and a project where students had to work with the local businesses and in groups and create commercials for our local, what would you call that? It's not a public access channel, but our local cable channel to create commercials for them to the business's satisfaction. last year was a little different for obvious reasons, that part of having people come into the building or going out of the building was curtailed significantly, although we did do some things. And this year our Learning for the Future investigative team has kind of taken that over, and they're working on building resources, and we are working on kind of leveling up a little bit and getting back in gear. Last year was, it was a
Hard for
wild time.
everybody.
And we scaled back on what we asked teachers to do, even though they were doing a lot still.
Two student-led businesses we have currently is our Roar store. I actually just walked through our commons area because we have our first home basketball game tonight and saw that they had several of their products up. So they know they've got a prime audience of buyers coming in tonight. And we just linked our Facebook pages to those. They're doing 3D printing, but a lot of apparel, both in-house and out of house, and doing a really nice job of that. And then we have a Tiger Fabrications group that's doing a lot of CNC, custom plasma cutting and welding work in our community. They've made burning fire pits, and they can customize those, if you want a Jayhawk on them or a Wildcat on them or whatever. Had to get my Jayhawks in there.
Yes.
And so, but that's just one product that they're doing. And so we thought hooking those in there, if people wanted to take a look at them, that might be nice for you to see.
Yes, and I'm sure they would take orders if you're interested. They would be unhappy if we didn't say that.
Yeah.
Okay, so February 2020, right before the pandemic started, we did our first Tiger Showcase downtown every Thursday, or once a month, I think, during the winter. On Thursdays, the businesses stay open and they have kind of special things going on, special events to attract people to downtown on Thursdays. And so we decided, instead of having our usual boring parent-teacher conferences that you kind of already know how your kid's doing and all that in February, and we get really low attendance, that we would go down to the community and spread out amongst the businesses. And the museum is down there, and there's some other venues that we can use that work well for that, and really show what our students are doing. So really highlighted a lot of CTE things, but also, like, I took the 3D printer down from the library just because a lot of people had never seen one print. Our biology teacher had a special mystery that involved figuring out who had made a bite mark. It turned out to be our principal, but like had that all set up, and a lot of different activities. There was food. I think the CTE departments had meetings with their boards, like their
Yes.
advisory boards. So that was a great way to get in. We had the band going around and playing. It was fantastic. And we saw so many people that maybe we wouldn't see or wouldn't have a chance to see what we're doing beyond maybe sports or concerts, and actually experience what our students are learning.
Yeah, and we will do that again this year as well. We plan that for February 17th. So we're excited to be able to get that back up and running with some new features as well this year. How do we know what we're doing works? Well, we see the engagement in our students. We see the engagement in our community, and they're actually approaching us and suggesting projects and things now that we can partner up with. We had an editorial in our local newspaper that was just incredibly glowing about redesign efforts, and that was for our entire district, but they mentioned our community networking as well. And it's just a shout out to Nathan. He has
Yes.
graduated, but I was just in one of our local grocery stores yesterday, and he is now training to work with them. And I have to think that part of the reason he's doing that is that he learned some pretty impressive skills from his classroom and from that Rex Theater project.
So now what can you do to increase those community connections with your school? A lot of it is just getting out of the school and really being open to chatting with people. When you go into the local clothing shop, ask how they're doing. Do they have high school students working there? A lot of times in a small town anyway, you kind of know people, but we also have teachers who don't live in our community, and they make those connections as well. Our band teacher didn't live in our community, but she's fantastic at making those connections and taking the kids out and doing things. Those local businesses, the coffee shops, our donut shop, Tasty Pastry is where it is at if you want to know what's up in Clay Center. But yeah, do that. Use your parents that work in local businesses and are part of the community too.
Or your employees' spouses, for instance. And start
Yes.
just thinking about the connections that
Yeah.
you even have on your staff. That's a big deal for us.
Absolutely.
We would recommend you talk to your current CTE teachers. They're naturally already doing this stuff, and they are in-house experts for you. So you can definitely build on what they're doing.
Yeah. So the coffee thing, you know, who was it that said, you said a principal said, if we're meeting, there's food. Yeah, when there's food, people show up. But that coffee hour is so simple. Even though our school food people catered it and the food was fantastic, but that's not hard to have coffee and bring some donuts and have people come in. And it's just fantastic for them to get to see the kids and see what we're doing in our school and just kind of let them loose. If you need to have a student or someone with them to walk around, great, but let them wander around and see what's up. When they get to see our house that our students are building, that's amazing to me. Our students build a house every year.
And sometimes it's just a matter of letting the community know what's actually going on in our building, because we all have cool stuff going on. And then finally, we would just suggest maybe you rework some of those times you already have built into the schedule, like parent-teacher conferences. Can we do those in a different way? You know, we've done middle of the day lunch and learn sessions, especially when we were starting redesign, and did breakout sessions that parents, and we had some grandparents who could attend. We just did a mini open house this fall. We had a free meal, and then multiple teachers said, I'll either do a demonstration or I'll at least have something up in the hallway. Our Roar store was open, etc. And so people could come in and do more than just maybe meet one-on-one. They could actually see what's going on in those classrooms. I think that's our presentation. You know, we can sure drop our emails or whatever into the chat if that would be helpful to people, and, you know, give any other suggestions or answer
Yeah.
questions.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Wonderful, thank you. Let's open it up for questions. You can either throw a question in the chat, or if you want to unmute and ask your question, feel free.
I have a question. You guys were talking about like the Rotary and lunches and monthly coffees, and we have the same thing. I'm from Hutchinson. We have the same thing going on. And so do you have just your redesign team goes, BLT, share the love? Like, do you have a certain way of how, like, who gets to go, I guess is my question.
Yeah, so it kind of started with probably BLT or redesign team. Actually, right now, our seniors go, and we come in at the beginning of the year because those groups meet weekly, and our seniors go down for a free lunch. They like that part a lot, to either Rotary or Lions. And also we just tell them, listen, this is a great way for you to represent us, but it's also a great thing to put on your resumes. And they're really, you know, with the IPSs and their next steps and stuff, that's a pretty easy sell.
I love that, having the kids go too. Like, that's neat.
And you could do
Okay.
that at any age level.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Elementary, like, yeah. Okay. Thank you, guys.
There you go, Alma. There's your next thing.
Done. Check.
Other questions?
So how do you guys pay when you do your stuff in-house? Where does the money come from? Is it grants that you've had to apply for? Where does that money come out of the budget to be able to pay for the food and stuff?
Well,
It's
we
magic.
have, it seems like magic. We have vending machines that are extremely well used, and the profits from those go into the slush fund, so to speak. And that gets used for a ton of stuff. And the kids, you know, really have no idea, but we go through a lot of snacks in this building, and I wouldn't say all of that money goes to our special projects, but there always seems to, you know, be some money in there somewhere for certain special projects. So a lot of our funds come from that.
Yes, everyone loves the slush fund, and everybody knows where it comes from, right? That's that's a tradition we don't want to stop. We don't want to redesign that. That's working. So other questions? Really good information.
I guess
All right, this is Myron Graber at Free State. I had a question about your PBL. You said you went to the Buck Institute. Would you consider your school to be wall to wall, or do you have pockets? Or PBL has just been, we've been working on that here even before redesign, and that seems to be a real challenge. I sent some teachers to, I'm not sure if you're familiar with the New Tech Network. It's a network of schools that are wall to wall PBL. There's about 70 or 80 high schools across the country. And their organization is really, everything's PBL, even their AP classes, everything. And so we sent some teachers to a Manor High School in Texas for some training, because they did some training, which I thought was really good. But it's all based on BuckX or PBL Works. So how's that gone for you, I guess, my question. So
when I went to the Buck Institute training, our trainer was in a full PBL school, and that's something that I don't know that we're even really trying for. We're just trying for more. And that, it's been a time, but more. And then, as you know, I don't think you can throw students or teachers into, hey, we're doing full project-based learning now, enjoy. I think everyone would flounder. It's really got to be scaffolded from the beginning and starting smaller. And one thing we kind of found that first year, some of the students struggled a little bit with having a number of projects. I think a lot of that is them getting used to doing more of the work and more of the planning, and it's also just feedback that we need to watch that a little bit. But making sure you have those shorter deadlines and everything. But yeah, I don't think that's something that we're looking at particularly as being full PBL. I don't know that that's something our community would necessarily want, or certainly not something that we've gotten that impression. Yeah,
I think lumping it into with personalized learning,
Yes.
I do a lot of that with my senior second semester, so that works a little better. We wanted to give options to our teachers. We also, anytime we do in-service on that, we really try to build in time, so maybe they could walk out of there with at least a partially built unit, and we find a lot more buy-in with that as well.
It is hard to find the time and to train on something so
it's
different than
big.
like what I did before. Yeah.
So I think Buck Institute has now become PBL Works.
Yes, that's
If
right.
you're looking for that, it's by and large, it's kind of the gold standard for PBL. But Myron, thanks for sharing that New Tech Network. I'm going to check that out. That's now Free State may have to be the first school to go wall to wall PBL in Kansas, all right, to get it started. So no pressure.
no pressure. It's incredible. Several years ago, I was very fortunate to visit several of the New Tech schools. I'm not trying to hijack your time here, but it's pretty incredible. They are wall to wall, and it's very interesting. The kids are really engaged. I was one in Indianapolis. I was at one there, and they brought in their business partners and kids and everything. And every business partner in there said, we will hire kids out of this school before any place else in the city, because they know how to problem solve. They know how to think through situations. And it was just really interesting to listen to them talk, because it's pretty intense though. And trying to do a whole school would be incredibly difficult. But most of the time, most of those schools are around 500 students. So they don't they recommend that you don't do a really large group at one time, because it's pretty intense. So it's pretty cool.
School within a school.
Having that strong connection with a business. I mean, if you can imagine your Eco Devo group that you mentioned there at Clay Center, coming to you and saying, we will hire kids they build their profile of a successful graduate or successful employee, right? And that really helps drive where you're trying to go. So I had a question. A lot of times we hear from smaller systems like, well, they've got, and you really have a nice diversified set of work-based learning experiences there at Clay Center. But some of our smaller communities, I'm from one way out in Western Kansas, people would be like, well, we don't have near the business and industry, the community partnerships available even to start building those out. What advice would you give to those smaller systems and how to build out a more robust community engagement system?
One of those things is look at what you have, and you may be surprised. I know that when we were talking, we had a CDE person come in one time, or CTE, sorry, person come in one time, and she said, look at the nursing home though. You have nursing people, you have administrative people, you have marketing people, and you have food people. You have a lot more than you think you do just in that one facility. So it's possible that you have a little more than you think you do.
Yeah, and I think, the internet has opened a lot of that. I mean, even thinking about what I'd like to see us maybe next step and really start to create a network of our alumni, because we have alumni here, but we have alumni all over the world. And, I've talked to some previous students who are maybe in Chicago and that kind of thing. And they've said, hey, listen, I'd take my lunch once a week and meet with a student if they thought they wanted to go into something similar. And I think we need to think of like, how can we leverage what we already have? And it might not be brick and mortar downtown. It might even be leveraging something online. So just reframing that and thinking about that in a different way.
Yeah, that's a great point. Great point.
I had a question about your forgetting what you called it, but when you went downtown and did that showcase instead of that replaced your conferences in February, what was the response to that like?
We had a lot of people visit. It was really good. And we did have, we have the 2 nights of parent teacher conferences, and this counted as one. And then we did have another like 4 to 8 more traditional. We were here, people did not come mostly, but we did it, and it was available for parents that wanted that. So,
and I think, having really everybody down there, and we culminated at our theater with our winter choir concert as well. And so that was an automatic draw, and the theater was packed out.
yes.
So just really thinking, which businesses can you approach? Where can you set up? This year, we're probably going to add on some historical tours downtown, so you wouldn't just be getting parents and grandparents, but some other community members, and our kids would be in charge of those. So just really trying to utilize as many spaces downtown as possible. And, just start somewhere, right?
Yes.
And then build from there. I mean, nothing that we do is perfect by any sense. And then we get feedback and we hear from our people, and we see what they're posting on social media and how they're commenting in on our photos and things, and pick up ideas from there, for the next time that we do something.
Other questions? Wonderful, wonderful information. And I just had one more, and then we can move on. But we've got some elementary schools on here today. Are there anything that you are doing in the elementary systems to connect with these community partnerships as kids matriculate up through your system?
Yeah, our elementary schools are actually really active as well. And if you want some contacts there, we could definitely get you some emails. I know that it could be something as simple as we have a 5K run celebrating something, and our elementary kids are creating the finish line for that. They're going down and volunteering with our insurance agencies and, just doing small tasks for them. If they have some sort of celebration, like I think we have an ABC's Day present
yes.
thing, and they turned that into a parade downtown in the middle of the day, and all the daycares show up, and the parents who can get away show up as well, and our band goes down and plays for that. So thinking about some of those things that you're already doing and pivoting those out into the community, and everybody loves showing up for little kids. I mean, who doesn't love that? Seriously. You are a Grinch if you are not going to show up for that. So yeah, just thinking about pivoting out, but we could definitely send you some emails if you wanted to talk to some people about that.
Well, thank you so much. That's a great connection piece. And just so you know, all these that you all have listed as really, those community events you remember from your childhood. Now, when we ask your generation of students what their favorite community event's going to be, it's going to be programs through your school. So thank you for doing this work. We're going to move to kind of closing out, and I think we'll go back to Menti. We pride ourselves, all of us, including all of us in this. And Dawn mentioned when they do PBL training in Clay Center that they really make sure people walk out with something to apply. We want the same thing for you as you come to these PLCs. We want these to be meaningful learning experiences. So we really stress the need to take something back to your school and apply it. So from what you've listened today or heard from today, or there's anything you've thought of before, but what can you commit to at your school when it comes to engaging your community? It could be anything. It could be small actions, large events, but what can you commit to when it comes to engaging your community? Just throw those on Menti, and we'll see if we can come up with a really strong list. There we go. We've got a couple. They're piling in now. What great examples that Clay Center brought today. So thank you for that. Thank you to Clay Center for providing so many different examples and just the story behind how you built those community connections. Really powerful. Ooh, documentaries and screenings at the theater. Very creative. That great point on the student showcase instead of the spring parent-teacher conferences, but having it in a community space. Yeah, that's great. I'm just plugging them a little bit, but Basehor-Linwood High School, if you're in the area, Basehor-Linwood's up, near Kansas City, they're having a Innovation Academy student showcase tomorrow night at 6 o'clock at Basehor-Linwood High School. And it's probably very similar to what's been talked about today. Those kids are all engaged in PBL all day long. Looks like we've got 8 responses. I know we have more people on than 8. Yeah, community employee profile. It's a great idea. I don't know if I've told you before, I'm kind of stubborn. So if I know that there are more people that can respond, we could, we're supposed to be done in 9 minutes, but We can go longer. I used to do that. Oh my gosh, look at this, the flurry.
I think we also have quite a bit of a lag in the,
I was going to say sometimes it's the refresh button. So we'll just assume that it is. So we hope that you take something away from this that you can commit to, take back to your teams, talk about it, see what can be done. If you want to go see it in action, give Clay Center a call. It's a great place to visit, and thank you so much again for sharing your story today. So the next question, and it'll be our last question for today, is, okay, you're doing some of those things, creating documentaries and showing them at the theater, those kinds of things. How will you know it's working? What are some signs that you could pick up on to tell the impact that that different community engagement activity or strategy would be having on student performance or the community or the school at large? What are some signs that it's working? Absolutely. Higher enrollment in those classes, higher quality projects, kids really owning their projects. And this can be the tougher question, right? It's great when you come up with great ideas, but then you think, how can we look to see the impact of this strategy? Yeah, higher attendance, student ownership, kids more engaged in their community, owning their learning, higher attendance rates, higher engagement levels, completion of projects. That's a great one to look at quantitatively. I love this. Teachers are owning it as well. So there are just some examples of ways that you can tell that it's working. A very important question to answer as you get something up and off the ground. Yeah, the community is more aware of what's going on in schools. Well, thank you so much. And again, can we give a round of applause to Clay Center? Thank you so much for presenting today and sharing that information. Great work, and it's really a privilege to have you on sharing with this group today. So with that, I will move to the next slide and just talk a little bit about something we're calling the inventory. And I know that Sarah has shared this through our redesign newsletter in other ways, but we are really hoping that each school that has launched, so that would include everyone on this Zoom, but each school that has launched, to go in and provide this information to capture the current state of your school redesign work. You know, if you think back to when you started redesign, you know, we really pushed that. Where's your current state academically? Where's your current state social emotionally? So this is to capture holistically across the state the current state of schools in redesign work. It's got a pretty quick timestamp on it. If this could be completed by January 1, we only need one response from each school. So that's an important thing to add. We only need one response from each school. Now, you can work collaboratively on it, maybe your school redesign team, maybe other people on your staff. But really what we want to do is capture your current state and then be able to share that with people across the state who are interested in the redesign work that's going on. All of you are demonstration sites. And so this is a way to get the word out about what you're doing in your building redesign wise, so others can benefit from that knowledge. Now, just know your feedback will be made public. There won't be any personally identifiable information in there, but it will be by your school. And there are some questions that we won't make public, but most that are just general information about what's going on in your school will be posted. So if you could have that one response back to us by January 1, that would be very much appreciated. And with that, I think I'll turn it over to Sarah.
Yes, thanks. So our next meeting, well, we have our companion to this tomorrow for those who could not attend this evening, but we will be back with our PLCs in January. Note this date is slightly different. We always try to meet the first Tuesday, Wednesday, but knowing that the 4th and 5th are probably going to be packed with your back to school PD, first days back after break. We're just pushing our January PLC to the second week. So we'll be here January 11th and 12th. This semester, we have focused on building engaging relationships, and next semester, we are hoping to focus on building engaging schools, with January's topic being designing for engagement. So same Zoom link, same place, same time, same day-ish, but we're just kicking that back a week to accommodate your rest, relaxation, and getting back into the swing of next year and next semester. You can add all of these dates to your calendar by accessing our Google Calendar. So if that makes it easy for you, you can open that once, get those added to your calendar. So just know that that is there for you as a resource. And with that, I'll turn it over to Tammy.
Right, so to kind of bring this all on home here, I'm going to put this link in the chat. This is just the same little quick survey that we ask each of you every time we do this so that we can make next month's better and better meet your needs. So if you could just take 90 seconds to fill this out, we would really appreciate that. And with that, next slide, please. Please feel free to follow us on Twitter, and when you have great things going on in your school and you tweet them, tag us, because we would love to repost that so we can spread all of the wonderful, great ideas that you're doing to our network across the state. And with that, we are your redesign team. We're here to support you. If you ever need anything at all, please feel free to reach out. And listen to that Hot Topics, because I may never sing again in public. So this might be your one opportunity. And if you want a free t-shirt, email us. So with that, thank you so much. Have a wonderful evening. If we don't see you, happy holidays and happy New Year. Take care, everyone.